Hey learners, welcome to Connected. Today we will read a story, Packing by Jerome K. Jerome, who will teach us how packing can also be a tedious task if not done correctly, and also highlights the significance of friends in one's life. We will also learn a lot of new words which will improve our vocabulary. Without further ado, let's get right into it. The writer Jerome liked to pack luggage for trips and announced that he would do the packing. Jerome thought that his ability to pack luggage was better than others. He asked his friends George and Harris to leave the task of packing to him. The two friends agreed to his offer instantly, which was strange. George sat comfortably on the easy chair and Harris bent his knees as he sat on the sofa and kept his feet on the table. Moving on to the next paragraph. By saying that he would pack, the writer did not mean that his friends would sit and relax while he would do all the work. He had meant that he would boss upon them while they would do all the chores. He would nag them and curse them for not knowing the work well, and then he would chip in to sort out the mess that they would create. He was irritated to see them sitting while he did all the work. I hope I made myself clear up till now. If anyone still has any query, then ask me without any hesitation. With that said, proceeding to the next para. He recollects that once he lived with a man who would sit lazily on the sofa all day through and would watch the writer do all the work. The man would say that he enjoyed watching him go around doing all the work. This would make the writer mad with anger. The writer adds that he could not sit idle and watch others work like slaves. On the other hand, he liked to check their work, walk around with his hands in his pockets, and direct them on how to do the work properly. He feels that as he was energetic, it was a part of his nature to behave in that manner. Moving on to the next para. The writer did not say anything to his friends and started packing. As he closed it, Harris said that he had forgotten to pack the boots. The writer felt that Harris could have reminded him before he had closed the bag, but he thought that Harris was like that. This was followed by an irritating laughter by George, which made Jerome wild with anger. The text part contains a lot of difficult words, so don't miss out on any of them. With that said, starting the next para. Jerome opened the bag to keep the boots in it. As he was about to close it, he was struck by a strange thought that had he kept the toothbrush or not. He says that he never remembers if he has packed the toothbrush or not. Jerome adds that while traveling, he always messes up with carrying his toothbrush. He has nightmares of not having packed it, wakes up in sweat and looks for it. In the morning, he packs it before using it, then unpacks the bag to get the brush and uses it. As it is the last thing that comes out of the bag and he has repacked the bag, he forgets packing it again. At the last moment, he rushes to his room to get the brush and finally, he wraps it in his handkerchief and carries it to the railway station in his hand. Proceeding. As Jerome was looking for his toothbrush in his bag, he had to remove everything, but he could not find it. He created a mess. He found his friend's brushes many times but could not find his brush. He kept everything back into the bag, one by one, shaking each item, and finally found the brush inside a boot. Then once again he repacked the bag. Let's find out what happens next. Now, when Jerome closed the bag, George asked if the soap was there inside it. As Jerome was impatient, he replied that he wasn't concerned if it was there or not, closed the lid and strapped the bag. Then he realized that he had packed his spectacle in it too and had to open it again to get them. Finally, the bag was closed at 10:05 p.m. Then they had to pack the food baskets. Harris said that as they were left with less than 12 hours to leave, they should pack the baskets as well. Harris decided that the food baskets would be packed by him and George. Jerome agreed to take his turn for some rest while his friends packed the baskets. Where were they heading to? Will they have a successful journey? Let's proceed to find the answers of all the questions. George and Harris started packing the hampers in a happy mood. They wanted to show Jerome that they could pack well. Jerome waited for them to create a mess because he considered Harris to be the worst packer in the world. Jerome looked at the piles of plates, cups, kettles, and bottles, the jars, pies, cakes and tomatoes which had to be packed into the hampers. He thought that as the boys would mess up, it would be an interesting thing to watch. The scene became interesting as they broke a cup at the start. Jerome says that they broke the cup to indicate that they could do that too and to make things interesting. Harris placed the jar of strawberry jam on top of the tomatoes. The tomatoes were squeezed by the jar and then they removed the damaged tomato with the help of a spoon. Moving on to the next para. Next, George stepped on the butter. Jerome remained silent but sat on the edge of the table to watch the action. His silence irritated his friends. They became nervous and stepped on the things. They kept the things behind them and later, when they wanted them, they could not find them. They placed the pies on the bottom and kept heavier things on them which smashed the pies. Proceeding. The boys overturned the can of salt on everything. Jerome says that they created a lot of confusion with the small piece of butter. He had not seen anyone create so much mess with butter that was worth 1 and 2 pence, meaning it was a very small piece, as they did. George removed it from his slipper and tried to put it into the kettle. As he was unable to do that, he placed it on a chair. Harris sat on it. The butter stuck to him. He stood up and both the boys went around the room looking for the piece of butter. I hope the story is clear up till now. Now let's move on to the next para. George looked intently at the empty seat on which he had placed the butter a few minutes ago. He took an oath of truthfulness that he had placed it there not even a minute ago. Once again, they searched it in the room. They met in the middle of the room empty-handed. George said that the disappearance of the butter was the most amazing thing that he had known. Harris said that the disappearance of the butter was a mystery. George saw the butter sticking to Harris's back and said that it had been there all this while. Harris turned around and asked where it was. George flew to Harris's back and asked him to stand still. They removed the butter and packed it inside the teapot. Proceeding to the next para. Jerome's pet dog, Montmorency, participated in all this. His aim was to interrupt everyone and then get scolded for it. Jerome adds that if Montmorency was able to twist into a place and create nuisance by angering people and get things thrown at him in return, he felt that he had utilized the day in a good way. Montmorency's aim was to get people to trip over him and scold him. By doing this, he felt that he had fulfilled his aim and would feel proud of his achievement. How will the dog mark his presence in the situation? Let's find out. Montmorency sat on the things to be packed. He thought that when George and Harris reached out for the things to be packed, they were reaching out for his cold, wet nose and would bring it forward for them. He stepped into the jam bottle, he shook the teaspoons, and he acted as if the lemons were rats and stepped into the hamper to kill these rats. He was stopped by Harris, who hit him with a frying pan. Moving on to the next para. Harris blamed Jerome for encouraging Montmorency for doing all this mischief. Jerome said that a dog like Montmorency did not need encouragement. It was born to be like that and act like that. At 12:50, they had packed the hampers. Harris sat on it and said that, hopefully, nothing would break in it. George was indifferent and said that if something broke, it would not matter. As they were ready for bed, they went upstairs to sleep. Continuing. As they settled in their beds, Harris asked Jerome if he preferred the inside or the outside of the bed. Jerome said that he preferred to sleep on the inside of the bed. This seemed strange to Harris. George asked them that he should wake them up at what time. Harris replied 7, while Jerome wanted to wake up at 6 as he had to write some letters. Harris and Jerome had a discussion on the time and finally they settled on 6:30, each accommodating his time by half an hour. One more para left. Let's finish it quickly and then we will practice some exercises to revise the chapter. George did not respond as he was asleep. Harris and Jerome made mischief by placing the bathtub next to George's head so that he would fall into it as he woke up, on the pretext that this way he would take a bath as soon as he got up. That's all for the chapter. I hope I made myself clear with the story. Now let's practice some exercises, starting the first one. Now everyone must pay attention as I am going to read out the answers. Excellent answers, everyone. Now let's practice some exercises based on grammar. Your time is over, dear students. Now match the answers as I am going to read it out. Today, we will read the poem The Duck and the Kangaroo, which elaborates the desire of a duck confined within the limits of the pond to go beyond and travel the world like the kangaroo did. The poem will also brush up our comprehension skills. Let's get right into the poem. Said the duck to the kangaroo, "Good gracious, how you hop over the fields and the water too, as if you never would stop. My life is a bore in this nasty pond, and I long to go out in the world beyond. I wish I could hop like you," said the duck to the kangaroo. The duck is awestruck to see the movement of the kangaroo. It expresses that the kangaroo could hop continuously over the fields and water bodies. The duck's life was boring as it remained in the pond all the time. It wished to see the world beyond the limits of the pond. It wishes that it could also hop like the kangaroo. Moving on to the next stanza. "Please give me a ride on your back," said the duck to the kangaroo. "I would sit quite still and see nothing but quack the whole of the long day through, and we'd go to the Dee and the Jelly Boli, over the land and over the sea. Please take me a ride, oh do," said the duck to the kangaroo. The duck requests the kangaroo to give it a ride on its back. It promised that it would sit quietly and would just quack all day. The duck lists the places that they would visit as Dee and Jelly Boli. It adds that they would hop over the land and the sea. Will the kangaroo accept the proposal of the duck? Let's find out. Said the kangaroo to the duck, "This requires some little reflection. Perhaps on the whole it might bring me luck. And there seems but one objection, which is, if you let me speak so bold, your feet are unpleasantly wet and cold, and would probably give me the rheumatiz," said the kangaroo. The kangaroo explains to the duck that it will need to consider the duck's proposal. While it might be a source of good luck for the kangaroo does have just one concern. To speak plainly, the duck's wet, cold feet might give the kangaroo rheumatism, that is joint inflammation, if they are on the kangaroo's back. Proceeding to the next stanza. Said the duck, "As I sat on the rocks, I have thought over that completely, and I bought 4 pairs of worsted socks which fit my web feet neatly. And to keep out the cold, I have bought a cloak, and every day a cigar I'll smoke, all to follow my own dear true love of a kangaroo." The duck said that, as it sat on the rocks during the day, it had thought over it. In order to avoid that, the duck had bought 4 pairs of worsted socks which fitted its web-shaped feet well. In order to stay warm, it would wear a shrug and also smoke a cigar every day. The duck would do all this to protect the kangaroo as it was a beloved. Will the kangaroo allow the duck now? Let's find out quickly. Said the kangaroo, "I'm ready, all in the moonlight pale. But to balance me well, dear duck, sit steady, and quite at the end of my tail." So away they went with a hop and a bound, and they hopped the whole world 3 times round. And who so happy, oh who, as the duck and the kangaroo? The kangaroo was satisfied with the duck's response and got ready for the ride. At night, when the sky was filled with the pale light of the moon, they started their trip with a hop. The kangaroo asked the duck to hold it firmly, and they traveled around the world 3 times. Both of them enjoyed each other's company. That marks the end of the poem. Now let's practice a short exercise to revise the poem. The questions were quite easy. I hope everyone is ready with their answers. I will read out the answers now, so please match them. Teaching you guys was a great experience as always. That's it for today's class. We will meet in the next one.